There's so many narratives in pop music about, oh, flexing on your ex, or, I hope you're doing bad and I'm doing great. But here, Joji is talking about wanting the best for this person who he clearly cared a lot about, and wanting them to move on. It takes a level of emotional maturity to want that. Today we're talking about Joji, your favorite YouTuber turned alternative R&B and pop singer. So Joji isn't really about bars. To use an art analogy, he is more of an impressionist. Not every bar is meant to be super deep or insightful, but they all come together to paint this really beautiful picture, whether that's courting someone into a dysfunctional relationship, being in a dysfunctional relationship, or the aftermath of a dysfunctional relationship. But occasionally he has a line or a passage that really, hits you here. So without further ado, I go by Brizza, and here are my top 10 Joji lines. A few honorable mentions. Tell me more, I got a box cutter with your name on it. Just a sharp little line about, threatening self-harm because you're not over someone. I'm a pretty boy living on the west side. Living so loud you can never hear me cry. I really like the wordplay of living so loud that you can't hear me cry. It's just, it's nice. It's not top 10, but it's nice. If you've been waiting for falling in love, babe, you don't have to wait on me. It's not a super deep bar or anything, but I thought it was a clever way of saying, hey, I'm into you and I'm ready when you are. I'm on trial. I'm not so good at hiding wholesome truths. You see it on my face when I turn blue. So punish me, I'm hanging on your noose. So pull me up so I can breathe with you. Again, a very eloquent way of saying, I really like you, essentially. But even more powerful because of the noose imagery. It's a really morbid way of saying that you want to be with someone. I witness your madness. You shed light on my sins. And if we share in the sadness, then where have you been? One of the biggest challenges in a relationship is when you're past the honeymoon phase and you're starting to really notice the other person's flaws. Witnessing their madness and at the same time having them point out your flaws to you, which is a hard thing because we all have pride and ego. But that's something you get through together. And in the second line, if we're supposed to share this burden, where have you been? It's only 2 lines, but it says so much about the nature of this particular relationship that when the times got tough, the other person just bounced. Bad luck, I don't want to be home at midnight. Sun's up, I don't really want to fight the daylight. I don't care if you moved on, I'm not laying in bed with an effed up head. There's something about this passage that's really simple but powerful, especially the line about I don't really want to fight the daylight, suggesting that previously even getting out of bed was a struggle for Joji, right? Even being out in the sun instead of being in bed all day. It's the rare moment where Joji talks about moving on, and I think that makes it a really special part of his discography. Teach me to love just to let me go. I can't believe that I'm not enough. In so long, no one will be here to save you, and no one will be here to let you know this is your world. First off, teach me to love just to let me go. That's a freaking bar. Like, oh my God. Straight off the bat, conveying that this was a really, really meaningful relationship that got broken off. You can tell it meant a lot to Joji because he's saying, when I'm gone, who's gonna tell you that this is your world? I was your biggest cheerleader. When you gotta run, just hear my voice in you. Shutting me out of you, doing so great. There's so many narratives in pop music about, oh, flexing on your ex, or, I hope you're doing bad and I'm doing great. But here, Joji is talking about wanting the best for this person who he clearly cared a lot about, and wanting them to move on, assuring them that he's doing so great and that they can start, shutting down the parts of them that cared about him. And I just thought that's so powerful because it takes a level of emotional maturity to want that. As time keeps slipping away, girl, don't start feeling away. You and I, we are one the same, loving in pain. As a relationship goes on, certain things become harder because you're out of that honeymoon phase where you're willing to overlook a lot of things, or they're not as grating until it becomes like the 100th time or whatever. And it's really easy to, start feeling resentment for the other person. But for me, this line is a really beautiful reminder that, you and I, we are still one, and we're going to still love each other through this temporary pain in our relationship. I don't feel the way they programmed me to feel today. Some pieces falling from the waist up. I'm so sorry for delays. Just need one moment to erase that burning pain before the rage. I feel good, I feel good, I feel good. I fixed it. This is the one line I'll call out that isn't about relationships. It's about people having this fixed role in mind for you, whether that's in your family, in your workplace, whatever. The pressure that they put on you to be this certain kind of way, and you being made to feel defective if you don't perfectly fit that mold. And in the second half of this passage, you having to swallow your resentment and your anger, and just, be the robot or whatever that they want you to be. Lately, I've been slipping away from you. Can you tell me, does it hurt today? Yeah, there's no way to burn. There's no flames. When Joji says, does it hurt today? It's such a powerful question, because the pain of drifting apart from someone is something that can be felt very strongly every single day, right? Especially if you're living with this person and every interaction you have with them reminds you of that growing distance. I also found Joji's use of the fire metaphor very beautiful. People often describe relationships in terms of fire, whether that's, the spark, the fire that you have for each other or in your heart. And here, the fire between these two people has died out, so you can't get burnt. It doesn't hurt because you just don't care. Will your tongue still remember the taste of my lips? Will your shadow remember the swing of my hips? Will your lover caress you the way that I did? Will you notice my charm if he slips up one bit? So a few years ago, my friend and I went to the 88 Rising show in SF. And before Joji came on, there was this girl who was dancing, kind of in front of me, but I wasn't trying to be a creep or anything like that. So I, respectfully, backed off and gave some distance, because the crowd will take you places, right, during the performance. So, I took a few steps back, and 10 minutes later, she's again like right in front of me. So I'm like, okay, do you want to dance? And she's like, yeah. So we danced throughout the entire Joji set. And I'm not going to lie, I think Joji live might be the perfect vibe for grinding with someone that you just met unsober. To be honest with you, I didn't even like Joji before the show. But after that, I went back and listened to In Tongues, and it just like clicked with me. I don't know how to explain it, but that's what happened, and I've been a Joji fan ever since. But yeah, this was the passage that made me really fall in love with Joji, because it's so poetic. Will your shadow remember the swing of my hips? The way that he frames these questions really reflects the longing that he's trying to express. It's simple, it's emotional, and it's bittersweet, which I think really sums up why we love Joji. So yeah, what'd you think of my list? Are there any, really hard-hitting lines that you think I missed? Let me know in the comments below. If you made this far, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Anthony Brizza, Joji, forever.